Miranda stood alone in the grand hall of Crescent Peak Castle, watching her husband, the alpha she was fated to love, dance with someone who belonged 6 feet under. The woman had the face of a ghost, the smile of his dead mate, and eyes that promised to steal everything Miranda had sacrificed for. Her Luna pendant grew cold against her chest, the ancient silver cracking down the middle as her heart shattered in rhythm. 3 months ago she'd arrived at this castle as a chosen mate, believing in destiny and the moon goddess's plan. Tonight she would discover that some destinies are written in lies, some bonds are forged in manipulation, and sometimes the mate you're meant to find isn't the one standing at the altar. This is the story of how Miranda lost everything she thought she wanted, only to discover what she truly needed had been waiting in the shadows all along. Before we dive into Miranda's journey of heartbreak, betrayal, and finding true love in the most unexpected place, I need you to do something for me. Hit that subscribe button right now because we drop emotional werewolf romance stories like this 3 times a week. Smash that like button if you're ready for a story about fated mates, dark secrets, and second chances. And here's my question for you. If your fated mate rejected you but you discovered your true soulmate was someone else all along, would you stay and fight or walk away? Drop your answer in the comments below along with the city you're watching from. Now let's get into Miranda's story. The autumn wind carried the scent of pine and approaching winter through the courtyard of Crescent Peak Castle as Miranda of House Padalfia arrived in a horse-drawn carriage adorned with silver wolves. She pressed her palm against the cold window, studying the massive stone fortress that would become her new home. Torches flickered along the ancient walls, casting dancing shadows across weathered battlements that had stood for 3 centuries. Her heart hammered against her ribs, a mixture of anticipation and dread that she couldn't quite name. "You look pale, my lady," her handmaiden Elena whispered beside her, reaching over to squeeze Miranda's trembling hand. "Are you frightened?" "Terrified," Miranda admitted, her voice barely audible over the clatter of wheels on cobblestone. "What if he doesn't want me, Elena? What if the bond reading was wrong?" Elena's expression softened with sympathy. "The moon goddess doesn't make mistakes with fated mates. Alpha Adrian is your destiny just as you are his." The elders confirmed it. But as the carriage rolled through the iron gates and into the castle grounds, Miranda caught sight of something that made her blood run cold. A massive portrait hung in the courtyard, draped in black mourning cloth that fluttered in the wind. Even partially covered, she could see the painted face of a beautiful woman with flowing auburn hair and striking emerald eyes, wearing the ceremonial robes of a Luna. Fresh moonflowers lay at the portrait's base, recently placed, lovingly arranged. "That's Luna Amy," Elena whispered, following Miranda's gaze. "She died 3 years ago, they say. Saved the entire pack from dark sorcerers during a siege. Alpha Adrian has never been the same since." A knot formed in Miranda's stomach, tightening with each passing second. How could she compete with a ghost? How could she fill the shoes of a legendary Luna who died a hero? The carriage stopped before the castle's main entrance, where a crowd had gathered. Pack members lined the steps, their faces a mixture of curiosity and thinly veiled disappointment. Miranda could hear the whispers already. "She's so young. Nothing like Amy. Poor girl. She'll never measure up." Then he appeared at the top of the stairs and Miranda's breath caught in her throat. Alpha Adrian of House Mandidia stood tall and commanding, his dark hair pulled back to reveal a face that could have been carved from granite. His eyes were the color of storm clouds, and they swept over her with an expression she couldn't read. Assessment? Disappointment? Indifference? He wore formal ceremonial armor, black leather and silver clasps, with his pack's wolf insignia emblazoned across his chest. "Welcome to Crescent Peak, Lady Miranda." His voice rang out, formal and cold. Not a trace of warmth, not a flicker of the recognition that should have sparked between fated mates. "The bonding ceremony will commence at midnight." That was it. No greeting, no gentle words, no acknowledgement of the bond that supposedly tied their souls together. He turned and walked back into the castle, leaving Miranda standing in the courtyard with dozens of eyes boring into her back. Elena helped her down from the carriage, steadying her when Miranda's legs threatened to give out. "Give him time, my lady. He's been through so much." But time was a luxury Miranda didn't have. Within hours she was being prepared for the bonding ceremony by servants who barely met her eyes. They dressed her in a gown of white silk embroidered with silver wolves, placed a wreath of moonflowers in her hair, and painted ancient symbols on her wrists and collarbones, marks of the Luna, marks of power and partnership. "You look beautiful," one of the older servants said, though her tone lacked conviction. "Luna Amy wore this very gown for her ceremony." "Of course she did." Miranda stared at her reflection in the polished bronze mirror, seeing a stranger wearing a dead woman's clothes, about to take a dead woman's place. At midnight she was led to the sacred moon chamber, a circular room at the castle's highest point, open to the night sky. The full moon hung overhead, bathing everything in silver light. Adrian stood at the center of a carved stone circle, waiting. Pack elders surrounded them, chanting in the old tongue. This should have been the most beautiful moment of Miranda's life. Instead, it felt like attending her own funeral. The head elder, a wizened woman with white hair and knowing eyes, began the ritual. "Under the light of the moon goddess, we gather to witness the bonding of fated mates. Alpha Adrian of House Mandidia and Lady Miranda of House Padalfia, chosen by destiny to lead this pack together." Adrian stepped forward and Miranda felt it then. A pull like an invisible thread connecting her heart to his. The mate bond, awakening and reaching out, desperate to complete itself. Her wolf stirred inside her, yearning for him, recognizing him as the other half of her soul. But when she looked into Adrian's eyes, she saw only emptiness staring back. The elder continued, "Do you, Alpha Adrian, accept this bond ordained by the moon goddess? Do you take Miranda as your mate, your Luna, your partner in all things?" The silence stretched for an eternity. Miranda's hands trembled. Around them, the pack members shifted uncomfortably. Even the elder looked uncertain. Finally, Adrian spoke, his voice devoid of emotion. "I accept the alliance between our houses. I accept Miranda of House Padalfia as Luna of Crescent Peak in title and duty." He paused, and the next words fell like stones into still water. "But I cannot accept the mate bond. My heart belongs to another, to the mate the moon goddess gave me first. I reject the bond between us." The words hit Miranda like a physical blow. Around them, gasps erupted from the watching pack members. The elder's eyes widened in shock. "Alpha Adrian, you cannot." Chapter 2. But it was too late. Miranda felt it the moment he spoke the formal words of rejection. The bond that had barely begun to form snapped like a broken thread. Pain exploded through her chest, radiating outward until every nerve in her body screamed in agony. She collapsed to her knees on the cold stone floor, clutching at her heart as if she could physically hold the pieces together. "Miranda!" Elena rushed forward from where she stood with the other servants, but pack guards held her back. Adrian stood unmoved, his face an emotionless mask as he watched her writhe in pain. "The political alliance will stand," he said to the shocked elders. "Our houses need this union to end the decades of conflict. She will serve as Luna in name and duty. But I will not dishonor Amy's memory by pretending to feel something I don't." The head elder stepped forward, her ancient face troubled. "Alpha Adrian, rejecting a fated mate bond has consequences. The pain she suffers now will continue, weakening her over time. And you will feel the emptiness where the bond should be, a constant reminder of what you refused." "I'm already empty," Adrian replied quietly, so quietly that Miranda almost didn't hear him over the ringing in her ears. "I've been empty since the day Amy died. This changes nothing." He turned and walked out of the moon chamber, leaving Miranda trembling on the floor, her white gown pooled around her like a puddle of moonlight. The pack members began to file out, their whispers following them like ghosts. "I knew this would happen. He'll never let Amy go. That poor girl. She should leave while she still can." But Miranda couldn't leave. By the time she'd recovered enough to stand, Elena supporting her weight as feelings slowly returned to her limbs, pack law had already sealed her fate. The Council of Elders convened an emergency meeting in the Great Hall, with Miranda swaying on her feet before them, barely able to focus through the throbbing pain in her chest. Lord Aldrich, the eldest council member, spoke with grave authority. The alliance between House Padalfia and House Mandidia was brokered with blood and sacrifice. 20 years of war ended because of the promise of this union. Regardless of the Alpha's feelings, the contract must be honored. "She's in pain," Elena protested from beside Miranda. "Can't you see what the rejection is doing to her? She needs healers, she needs to fulfill her duty," another council member interrupted sharply. As do we all. The girl will serve as Luna. She will manage the castle, represent the pack, perform all ceremonial duties. Alpha Adrian has agreed to maintain the appearance of unity in public. What happens, or doesn't happen, in private is between them. Miranda wanted to scream, to rage, to demand how they could trap her in a marriage with a man who had just ripped her soul apart. But her voice wouldn't work. Her body wouldn't cooperate. All she could do was stand there and nod mechanically as they discussed her life as if she were a piece of furniture being rearranged. She'll reside in the East Tower, Lord Aldrich continued. Far enough from the Alpha's chambers to avoid complications, but close enough to respond when needed for official functions. How considerate, Elena muttered bitterly under her breath. That night Miranda was installed in the East Tower, a series of rooms that were beautiful and comfortable and utterly, completely lonely. From her window she could see the West Wing where Adrian's chambers were located. A single candle burned in his window, flickering in the darkness like a distant star. Elena helped her out of the ceremonial gown, Amy's gown, and into a simple nightdress. "We can leave," Elena whispered urgently. "My lady, we can slip out before dawn. Go back to your family, explain what happened. Surely they would understand." "And restart the war?" Miranda asked in a voice almost as hollow as she felt, sinking onto the edge of her bed. "How many people died in those 20 years, Elena? Hundreds? Thousands? I can't be responsible for that." "I won't. But you're suffering." Elena's eyes filled with tears. "I can see it. The rejected bond is like poison in your veins." Miranda pressed a hand to her chest where a dull, constant ache had settled. Elena was right, she could feel it like thorns wrapped around her heart, tightening with each breath. "Then I'll learn to live with poison." The days that followed blurred into a nightmare of duty and isolation. Miranda threw herself into her role as Luna, desperate to prove her worth to a pack that wanted nothing to do with her. She woke before dawn each day, despite the pain that made every movement feel like walking through fire. She managed the castle's household affairs, mediated disputes between pack members, and oversaw preparations for the approaching winter. The pack members treated her with cold politeness at best, outright hostility at worst. They called her Lady Miranda, never Luna. That title was reserved for their memories of Amy. More than once, Miranda overheard servants comparing her unfavorably to the dead Luna. Amy would have handled that dispute with such grace. Amy always knew exactly what to say. Amy made the Alpha smile. This one just makes him retreat further into his grief. And Adrian was a ghost haunting his own castle. Miranda saw him only at required public functions, where he stood beside her with the warmth of a stone statue. He never spoke to her beyond what was absolutely necessary. Never looked at her unless forced. At night she would see him walking the battlements alone, his silhouette stark against the moon, and she knew he was thinking of Amy. The only person who showed Miranda genuine kindness was Kendrick, Adrian's beta and childhood friend. Kendrick had kind brown eyes and a quick smile that felt like sunshine after endless rain. He was the one who checked on her when she was too exhausted to hide her pain. The one who actually listened when she spoke in council meetings. The one who made her feel, for brief moments, like she might survive this nightmare. "Don't give up," Kendrick told her one afternoon as they walked through the castle gardens. Chapter 3. Miranda had been managing the preparation for the Harvest Festival, and Kendrick had offered to help her review the security arrangements. They stood near a fountain where stone wolves spouted water into a crystal-clear pool. Autumn leaves drifted down around them in shades of gold and crimson. "How can I not give up?" Miranda asked wearily, her Luna pendant heavy around her neck. "I'm trapped in a marriage with a man who can't even stand to look at me, living in the shadow of someone I can never replace. Every day the pain gets worse, Kendrick. Every day I feel myself getting weaker." Kendrick's jaw tightened with barely suppressed anger. Not at her, she knew, but at the situation. "Adrian is my oldest friend and I love him like a brother. But what he's doing to you is not right, Miranda. You didn't ask for this." "Neither did he," Miranda said quietly, watching the water cascade from the wolves' mouths. "He loved her. He lost her. How can I be angry at him for grieving? Grief is one thing. Cruelty is another." Kendrick reached out and gently touched her shoulder, a gesture of comfort that made Miranda's eyes sting with unshed tears. It was the first kind touch she'd received since arriving at the castle. "You deserve better than this." Before Miranda could respond, a commotion erupted from the main courtyard. Shouts and the sound of horses drew their attention. Kendrick immediately went on alert, his hand moving instinctively to the sword at his hip. "What's happening?" Miranda asked, already moving toward the noise despite the exhaustion weighing down her limbs. They emerged from the gardens to find the courtyard filled with newcomers, warriors bearing the blood-red standard of the Bloodfang pack. Miranda's stomach dropped. The Bloodfang pack was Crescent Peak's oldest rival, their territory bordering to the south. There had been a tentative peace treaty for the past year, but trust remained thin on both sides. At the head of the delegation rode a tall, imposing figure in dark armor, Lord Raven, the new Bloodfang Alpha. His hair was black as a raven's wing, his eyes sharp and calculating. He dismounted with predatory grace, his gaze sweeping across the assembled Crescent Peak pack members with barely concealed contempt. "I come under the banner of peace," Raven announced, though his smile suggested anything but peaceful intentions. "To honor the Harvest Moon Festival and strengthen the bonds between our packs." Adrian emerged from the castle, flanked by guards. For the first time since Miranda had arrived, she saw genuine alertness in his expression. The Alpha finally focused on something beyond his grief. "Lord Raven," Adrian said coolly, "your visit is unexpected. The festival doesn't begin for 3 more days." "I thought arriving early would demonstrate my commitment to our alliance," Raven replied smoothly. His eyes landed on Miranda and something flickered in his gaze. Recognition? Assessment? Made her skin crawl. "And you must be the new Luna Miranda. I've heard so much about you." Miranda stepped forward, drawing on every lesson in diplomacy her mother had taught her. "Lord Raven, you and your warriors are welcome at Crescent Peak Castle. We'll prepare appropriate accommodations." "How gracious," Raven interrupted, still studying her with unsettling intensity. "Though I must say you look unwell, Lady Miranda. Perhaps the northern climate doesn't agree with you." Kendrick moved closer to Miranda's side, a protective gesture that didn't go unnoticed. "The Lady Luna is perfectly well and more than capable of managing our festival preparations. Perhaps your warriors would like to rest after their journey." Tension crackled through the courtyard. Raven's smile never wavered, but his eyes went cold. "Of course. We wouldn't want to burden your Luna with unnecessary strain. I've brought my own delegation, including our most skilled healers. In fact..." He gestured behind him and a young woman stepped forward from among the Bloodfang warriors. Miranda's world tilted on its axis. The woman was young, perhaps Miranda's age, with auburn hair that caught the afternoon light and emerald green eyes that sparkled with nervous energy. She wore the simple robes of a healer, marked with the sacred symbols of the moon goddess. And she looked exactly, impossibly, devastatingly exactly, like the portrait in the courtyard. Like Luna Amy. The effect on Adrian was instantaneous and catastrophic. All color drained from his face. He actually stumbled backward, catching himself against a stone pillar. His eyes locked onto the young woman with an expression Miranda had never seen on his face before. Shock, hope, desperate longing. "This is Celine," Raven continued, watching Adrian's reaction with satisfaction. "Our most gifted healer. She's been instrumental in strengthening Bloodfang's medical practices. I thought she might be useful during the festival should anyone require her services." Celine herself looked uncomfortable with the attention, her eyes downcast as she curtsied slightly. "My Lord Alpha, my Lady Luna. I'm honored to serve however I can." Her voice was soft, melodious, and according to the expression on Adrian's face, heartbreakingly familiar. "Amy," Adrian breathed so quietly that only those standing closest could hear. His hand reached out involuntarily before he caught himself. Kendrick grabbed Miranda's arm, steadying her as the world spun around her. The pain in her chest intensified, the rejected bond seeming to twist tighter as she watched her husband look at another woman with everything Miranda had desperately wanted to see in his eyes when he looked at her. Lord Raven's smile widened, victorious. "Is something wrong, Alpha Adrian? You look as though you've seen a ghost." The next few hours passed in a blur of forced pleasantries and barely suppressed panic. Miranda mechanically directed servants to prepare the guest quarters, her voice steady even as her hands trembled. She smiled and nodded through welcome speeches, ignored the whispers that spread through the castle like wildfire. Did you see his face? She looks exactly like Luna Amy. The moon goddess has returned his mate to him. What will happen to Lady Miranda now? Chapter 4. That evening, Miranda stood alone in her tower chamber, staring out at the darkening sky. The pain in her chest had intensified to the point where she could barely draw breath. Elena hovered nearby, wringing her hands anxiously. My lady, you need to rest. You look like you're about to collapse. I can't rest, Miranda whispered, pressing her hand against the cold window. Below, she could see Adrian crossing the courtyard, his path leading directly toward the guest wing where Celine was housed. Elena, did you see her? Did you see how he looked at her? I saw, Elena said quietly, her voice thick with sympathy. My lady, this doesn't mean. It means everything. Miranda turned from the window, tears finally spilling down her cheeks. For 3 months I've endured his coldness, his rejection, his complete indifference. I've watched him grieve a dead woman while I slowly died beside him. And now she's here, or someone who looks like her, and suddenly he's alive again. Suddenly he remembers what it feels like to want someone. A knock at the door interrupted her breakdown. Elena opened it to reveal Kendrick, his expression grim. I need to speak with Lady Miranda, he said. Alone. Elena looked to Miranda, who nodded weakly. Once the handmaiden had left, Kendrick closed the door and turned to face her with barely contained fury. Adrian has convened an emergency council meeting, Kendrick said without preamble. He's demanding the pack elders perform the ritual of past souls. Miranda's blood ran cold. The ritual that reveals past life connections? Yes. He's convinced that Celine is Amy reincarnated. He wants it confirmed. And if it's confirmed? Miranda asked, though she already knew the answer. Kendrick's silence spoke volumes. Finally, he said, there's a provision in werewolf law. If a wolf's true mate is reincarnated, the mate bond supersedes all other commitments, even a contract marriage. So I'll be set aside. Miranda laughed bitterly, the sound broken and hollow. Cast out after being rejected and tortured for 3 months. How fitting. Miranda, no. Kendrick stepped closer, his hands reaching for hers. Listen to me. Something about this doesn't feel right. Lord Raven showing up with a woman who happens to look exactly like Adrian's dead mate? The timing is too convenient. What are you saying? I'm saying that Raven is known for his interest in dark magic. There have been rumors for years that he's studied forbidden practices. What if Celine isn't who she appears to be? What if this is some kind of trick? Miranda wanted to believe him, but despair had already wrapped around her heart like chains. Does it matter? Trick or truth, Adrian believes it. Look at him, Kendrick. He's already forgotten I exist. You matter to me, Kendrick said fiercely, and something in his tone made Miranda look up sharply. His brown eyes held an intensity she'd never noticed before, a depth of feeling that made her breath catch. Miranda, you matter to this pack whether they're too blind to see it or not. You've worked yourself to exhaustion trying to lead them, trying to earn their respect despite everything they've put you through. Don't let Adrian's obsession with the past destroy you. Before Miranda could respond, another knock sounded at the door. A young servant girl peeked in nervously. Begging your pardon, my lady, but Alpha Adrian requests your presence in the Great Hall. The council is convening. Miranda straightened her spine, wiping away her tears. Tell him I'll be there shortly. The Great Hall was packed with pack members when Miranda arrived, Kendrick at her side. The massive room with its vaulted ceilings and ancient tapestries felt oppressive, every eye turning to watch her enter. She held her head high despite the pain lancing through her body with each step. Adrian stood at the center of the hall beside the council elders. And there, looking small and frightened, stood Celine. Up close, the resemblance to the portraits of Amy was even more striking. Not just similar but nearly identical. Even the small scar above her left eyebrow matched. The head elder, the same wizened woman who had overseen Miranda's disastrous bonding ceremony, looked deeply troubled. Alpha Adrian, are you certain you wish to proceed with this ritual? The ritual of past souls is not to be undertaken lightly. If misused, it can have serious consequences. I've never been more certain of anything, Adrian said, his eyes never leaving Celine's face. I need to know. I need to understand why she looks like Amy, why she feels like Amy. I don't understand any of this, Celine spoke up, her voice trembling. My Lord Alpha, I'm just a healer. I don't know why I look like your late mate. I don't. She paused, her brow furrowing. But I've been having dreams. Since I arrived at this castle, I've dreamed of these halls, of battles I never fought, of memories that aren't mine. The hall erupted in whispers. Miranda felt her knees weaken, and Kendrick's hand found the small of her back, steadying her. Then we proceed, the head elder declared gravely. Clear the center of the hall. We'll need moon water, wolf's blood, and the sacred bone of our ancestors. The ritual took nearly an hour to prepare. Miranda was forced to watch as pack members drew intricate symbols on the stone floor with blessed chalk, as servants brought ancient relics from the castle's deepest vaults. All the while, Adrian stood close to Celine, not touching her but hovering nearby like a moth drawn to flame. Lord Raven watched from the shadows near the hall's entrance, his expression unreadable. Something about his presence made Miranda's skin crawl, but she couldn't articulate why. Finally, everything was ready. The elder instructed Celine to stand at the center of the chalk circle while she chanted in the old tongue. The words echoed through the hall, ancient and powerful, resonating in Miranda's bones. Chapter 5. Moon water was poured in a circle around Celine's feet, shimmering silver in the torchlight. The elder pricked Celine's finger with a ceremonial blade, letting 3 drops of blood fall onto a carved bone that dated back to the pack's founding. The moment the blood touched the bone, it began to glow with ethereal light. Celine gasped, her body going rigid. Her eyes rolled back in her head, and when she spoke, her voice sounded distant, layered with echoes. I remember stone walls and the smell of smoke. I remember fighting beside warriors in black and silver. I remember. Her eyes focused suddenly on Adrian, tears streaming down her face. I remember you. I remember loving you. I remember dying to save you. The hall fell silent except for Adrian's ragged breathing. He stepped forward, his hand trembling as it reached toward Celine. Amy. The soul remembers, the elder announced, her voice heavy with significance. The essence of Luna Amy lives within this woman. Whether through reincarnation or some other means, she carries memories and fragments of the one who came before. The pack erupted in celebration. Pack members who had treated Miranda with cold disdain now embraced each other joyfully, tears flowing freely. Their beloved Luna had returned. The moon goddess had answered their prayers. And Miranda stood frozen, watching her entire world crumble. The pain in her chest exploded to new heights, the rejected bond seeming to understand what this meant. She would be cast aside, forgotten, erased from this pack's story as if she'd never existed. I need air, she gasped to Kendrick, pushing through the celebrating crowd toward the door. She didn't care that people stared, didn't care that she was supposed to stay for the entire council meeting. She couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't exist in that room for another second. She made it to the castle gardens before collapsing on a stone bench, her body shaking with silent sobs. The autumn night was cold, frost already forming on the grass, but she barely felt it through the burning pain inside her. Lady Miranda. She looked up to find Celine standing a few feet away, her expression uncertain and guilty. Please, I don't want to intrude, but I needed to speak with you. Come to gloat? Miranda asked bitterly, wiping at her tears. Come to claim what's yours? No. Celine moved closer, wringing her hands anxiously. Lady Miranda, I never wanted any of this. I don't understand what's happening to me. These memories, they feel real, but they also feel wrong, like someone else's dreams forced into my head. An Alpha Adrian. She hesitated. He looks at me with such hope, such desperate longing. But I'm not the woman he lost. I'm me. I'm Celine. Despite everything, Miranda felt a flicker of sympathy. Then tell him that. I tried. Celine sat down on the bench, keeping a respectful distance. But he doesn't hear me. He only sees Amy. And Lord Raven. Her voice dropped to a whisper. My lady, there's something you should know about Lord Raven. Something I'm afraid to speak aloud. Miranda's instincts sharpened. What about him? Celine looked around nervously as if afraid they were being watched. 6 months ago the old Bloodfang Alpha died suddenly. Lord Raven took power and immediately began changing things. He brought in practitioners of dark arts, built a new chamber beneath the castle that no one is allowed to enter. And 3 months ago he took me from the healing wards, Said I had a special purpose to fulfill. What kind of purpose? I don't know exactly. But he performed rituals on me, gave me potions that made me sick, made me dream terrible things. My appearance started changing. My hair grew darker red, my eyes shifted color. He showed me portraits, made me study them until I saw them in my sleep. And then he brought me here. Celine's voice broke. Lady Miranda, I think something very wrong is happening. I think Lord Raven is using me for something, and I'm terrified of what it might be. Before Miranda could respond, Kendrick appeared at the garden entrance, his face urgent. Miranda, you need to come quickly. Adrian is in the council chamber and he's... Kendrick noticed Celine and hesitated. It's all right, Miranda said, standing on shaking legs. Celine was just telling me something important. Kendrick, I think Lord Raven is enjoying the festivities? Lord Raven himself emerged from the shadows behind Kendrick, his smile sharp as a blade. I heard there was quite a revelation tonight. How wonderful that Alpha Adrian has been reunited with his lost love. The moon goddess truly works in mysterious ways. Kendrick moved protectively between Raven and the two women. Lord Raven, I wasn't aware you'd left the Great Hall. I needed some air myself. Such emotional gatherings can be overwhelming. Raven's eyes fixed on Celine and Miranda saw the young woman flinch. Celine dear, you should be inside. Alpha Adrian is asking for you. He wishes to speak privately. I'll be there shortly, my lord, Celine stammered. Now, Celine. Raven's voice hardened. Remember what we discussed. Remember what's at stake. The threat in his words was unmistakable. Celine stood quickly, casting an apologetic look at Miranda before hurrying back toward the castle. Raven followed, leaving Miranda and Kendrick alone in the frost-covered garden. He's threatening her, Miranda said immediately. Kendrick, something is very wrong here. Celine told me Raven has been performing dark rituals on her, changing her appearance, implanting false memories. This isn't reincarnation, it's manipulation. I believe you, Kendrick said firmly. I've been suspicious since the moment they arrived. But we need proof and we need to move carefully. Raven is powerful, and if he's truly practicing dark magic, then Adrian is in danger, Miranda finished. Despite everything, despite the rejection and pain and humiliation, she couldn't stand the thought of Adrian being manipulated by dark forces. We need to investigate. Tonight. Kendrick nodded. The guest wing where Bloodfang's delegation is staying. If Raven brought anything incriminating, it would be there. But Miranda, if we're caught, then we're caught. Chapter 6. They waited until the castle settled into sleep, the celebrations finally dying down near midnight. Kendrick knew the guard rotations, knew which corridors would be empty at which hours. He led Miranda through shadowed passages, both of them dressed in dark cloaks that helped them blend into the darkness. The guest wing was quiet when they approached. Most of the Bloodfang warriors were housed in the barracks below, but Raven and his inner circle, including Celine, had been given chambers here. Kendrick picked the lock on Raven's door with practiced ease and they slipped inside. The room was lavish with thick carpets and ornate furniture. But it was the traveling chest at the foot of the bed that drew their attention. Kendrick knelt beside it, examining the lock. Dark magic ward, he whispered. I can feel it. If we open this wrong, it'll trigger an alarm. Miranda felt something stirring inside her, that strange power that had been growing since she arrived at Crescent Peak Castle. The same power that had made the pain of rejection feel like fire in her veins. She placed her hands on the chest, closing her eyes, and felt for the magical threads woven into the lock. There. She could see them, dark pulsing lines of energy that coiled around the chest like serpents. Without understanding how, she reached out with her mind and gently unraveled them. The lock clicked open. Kendrick stared at her in amazement. How did you? I don't know, Miranda breathed. But we need to hurry. Inside the chest they found exactly what they feared. Vials of dark-colored potions labeled with symbols Miranda didn't recognize. A spelled amulet containing strands of auburn hair, stolen from Amy's tomb, they realized with horror. Letters written in code, but the sender's seal was clear. A network of dark practitioners stretching across multiple packs. And most damning of all, a detailed scroll outlining the entire plan. How Raven had researched Luna Amy through spies in Crescent Peak. How he'd selected Celine, a powerless orphan with no family, no one who would search for her, to be transformed through dark rituals. How potions and spells had altered her appearance, implanted false memories, even changed her scent to match the dead Luna's. But the plan went deeper than simple deception. The final stage involved a bonding ceremony where Celine would use a blood-binding curse hidden in the ritual wine. When Adrian drank it, believing he was bonding with his reincarnated mate, his alpha power would be transferred to Raven, leaving him an empty husk. With Crescent Peak's alpha powerless and its pack leaderless, Raven could conquer the territory and expand his dark empire. Moon Goddess, Kendrick breathed, reading over Miranda's shoulder. This is treason. This is an act of war. This is my fault, Miranda whispered, her hands shaking as she held the scroll. I was so focused on my own pain that I didn't see the real danger. Adrian is walking into a trap and he won't listen to me. He won't believe anything I say because you're the rejected mate who has every reason to lie about the woman who's replacing you, Kendrick finished grimly. Raven planned this perfectly. He knew Adrian wouldn't trust you, knew the pack's loyalty would be to Amy's memory, not to you. We need to take this to the council, Miranda said, carefully collecting the evidence. They'll have to believe us with proof like this. They made it halfway down the corridor before Raven's voice stopped them cold. Did you find what you were looking for, Lady Miranda? They spun to find Raven standing behind them, flanked by 6 of his largest warriors. All were armed, all looked ready for violence. Raven's expression was no longer smooth and diplomatic. It was cruel, calculating, victorious. I wondered if you'd figure it out, Raven continued, slowly walking toward them. The rejected mate, desperate and broken, trying to discredit the woman who's stealing her place. It's almost poetic. Kendrick drew his sword, positioning himself between Miranda and the advancing warriors. Stay back. Touch her and You'll what? Fight all 6 of my best warriors while protecting the weak little Luna. Raven laughed. I don't think so. Now you have 2 choices. Give me that evidence, return to your chambers and stay silent, and I might let you live to see another dawn. Or resist and I'll kill you both right here, right now. No one will question it. After all, the rejected Luna and the beta went mad with jealousy and attacked me in the night. Such a tragedy. Miranda's mind raced. They were outmatched and Raven knew it. Even if Kendrick was an exceptional fighter, he couldn't take 6 trained warriors while protecting her. And if they died here, Adrian would walk straight into Raven's trap without ever knowing the truth. Unless, I have a third choice, Miranda said, surprising herself with how steady her voice sounded. She felt that strange power building inside her again, the same power that had unlocked the magical chest. I call challenge. Everyone froze. Even Raven looked taken aback. Call challenge, he repeated. You. A weakened, rejected Luna with no battle training. Pack law states that any member may challenge another if they believe injustice is being done, Miranda said, reciting the ancient laws her mother had made her memorize. I challenge you, Lord Raven of House Bloodfang, before the Moon Goddess and this pack. If I win, you and your warriors leave immediately and never return. If you win. If I win, you die, Raven finished, his smile returning. And Kendrick here will be bound by pack law not to interfere. Very well, Lady Miranda. I accept your challenge. Shall we take this to the Great Hall where everyone can watch your failure? Within minutes, the castle was awake. Pack members poured into the Great Hall, summoned by the formal challenge cry. Adrian arrived looking disheveled and confused, Celine close behind him. What's the meaning of this? Adrian demanded, his eyes moving between Miranda and Raven. Chapter 7. Your Luna has challenged me to combat, Raven announced to the assembled crowd, gesturing theatrically at Miranda. She accuses me of dark magic and conspiracy. I of course maintain my innocence. But pack law demands we settle this with blood. Miranda stood in the center of the hall, the evidence clutched in her hands. Adrian's eyes widened when he saw the scrolls and vials. Miranda, what have you done? He asked, and for the first time since she'd arrived, she heard genuine concern in his voice. You can't fight him. You're not trained for combat and the rejected bond has weakened you. I know what I'm doing, Miranda said, though her legs trembled beneath her gown. She looked at Kendrick, who stood at the edge of the circle with anguish written across his face. Kendrick, if I fall, make sure the evidence reaches the council. Make sure they know the truth. You won't fall, Kendrick said fiercely. Miranda, listen to me. You're stronger than you know. Trust yourself. Trust what's growing inside you. The head elder stepped forward to officiate the challenge. The terms are set. Lord Raven of Bloodfang and Lady Miranda of Crescent Peak will fight until one yields or falls. No outside interference will be tolerated. May the moon goddess guide the righteous. Raven drew his sword, the blade gleaming wickedly in the torchlight. Miranda had no weapon, no armor, nothing but her ceremonial Luna gown and the power she didn't fully understand coursing through her veins. Last chance to yield, Raven said mockingly. Beg for mercy and I might make it quick. Miranda closed her eyes, reaching for that power she'd felt earlier. She could sense the magical bonds connecting every person in the room, could see them like glowing threads. The rejected bond between her and Adrian was a sickly, broken thing. But there was another thread, strong and silver, connecting her to Kendrick. And there she saw it now, the dark magic coiled around Celine like chains. No mercy, Miranda whispered and opened her eyes. Raven lunged. His sword should have pierced her heart, but Miranda moved with speed she didn't know she possessed. Her hands came up and silver light exploded from her palms, the same silver as the moon itself. The light hit Raven's sword and he stumbled backward with a cry of pain. The hall erupted in gasps. Even the elders looked shocked. Impossible, Raven snarled. You're just a rejected mate. You shouldn't have this kind of power. But Miranda understood now. The rejected bond, as painful as it was, had broken something open inside her, had awakened a dormant gift that had been sleeping her entire life. She could see magical energy manipulate it, bend it to her will. The suffering had transformed her into something more than she'd been before. Raven attacked again, this time using his own dark magic. Shadows erupted from his hands, reaching for Miranda like grasping claws. But she saw the threads of dark energy and simply pulled them apart, unraveling his spell as easily as untying a knot. You want to know the truth? Miranda's voice rang out across the hall, strong and clear. She gestured toward the evidence Kendrick now held. Lord Raven is a practitioner of forbidden dark magic. He kidnapped Celine, used potions and spells to transform her appearance, implanted false memories to make her believe she was Luna Amy reincarnated. His plan was to have Alpha Adrian bond with her, then use a blood curse to steal his power and conquer Crescent Peak. Lies. Raven roared, but his face had gone pale. Then explain this, Kendrick shouted, holding up the scrolls and vials. Explain the detailed plans we found in your chambers. Explain the spelled amulet containing hair stolen from Luna Amy's tomb. The pack members erupted in outrage. Adrian's face went white with shock, his eyes finding Celine in the crowd. Is this true? Adrian asked, his voice breaking. Celine, were you being controlled? Celine stepped forward, tears streaming down her face. I'm so sorry, my Lord Alpha. I never wanted this. Lord Raven threatened my sister. He said if I didn't obey, he'd kill her. The memories felt wrong from the beginning, but I had no choice. I was never your Amy. I'm just Celine, a healer who was used as a weapon against you. Raven's facade crumbled entirely. With a roar of rage, he unleashed the full force of his dark magic. Not at Miranda but at Adrian, attempting to complete his plan through sheer force. Dark energy shot across the hall like a spear aimed at Adrian's heart. Miranda didn't think. She simply moved, her body placing itself between Adrian and the dark magic. She felt the energy hit her chest, felt it trying to tear into her soul, and then she grabbed it with her power, pulling it into herself and transforming it. The dark magic turned silver in her hands, became pure moonlight, and she threw it back at Raven with twice the force. Raven screamed as his own magic struck him, the dark spells he'd woven around himself for years shattering like glass. He collapsed to the floor, powerless and defeated. The hall fell silent. Miranda swayed on her feet, exhausted but triumphant. Then she felt it, a warmth spreading through her chest, replacing the cold agony of the rejected bond. She looked up to find Kendrick pushing through the crowd toward her, his eyes full of wonder. The bond, the head elder breathed, staring at Miranda and Kendrick. I can see it. Moon goddess preserve us, they're true fated mates. Miranda felt it too. The silver thread connecting her to Kendrick wasn't new. It had been there all along, hidden beneath the pain of Adrian's rejection. As she looked into Kendrick's eyes, Everything clicked into place. This was what a true mate bond should feel like. Not pain and longing, but peace and completion. Adrian stepped forward, his face showing a mixture of shame and realization. The original bond reading, he said slowly. The one that brought Miranda here. It was manipulated, wasn't it? Raven had agents among our elders. The head elder nodded gravely. I suspected but had no proof. Lord Aldrich. She gestured to one of the council members who suddenly tried to flee but was caught by pack guards. He was bought by Raven's gold. He falsified the bond reading to create chaos, to bring a false Luna who would be rejected and create the perfect distraction for Raven's real plan. So Miranda and I were never meant to be mates, Adrian said quietly. And I tortured her for months over a bond that should never have existed. He looked at Miranda, his eyes finally seeing her clearly. I owe you more than I can ever repay. You saved my life. You saved this entire pack. And I was too blind with grief to see what was happening. You loved her, Miranda said simply. Love makes us blind sometimes. But Adrian, you need to let Amy rest now. Truly rest. He gave her life for this pack. Honor that by living yours. Adrian nodded, tears finally falling down his face. 3 years of grief finally breaking open, finally being allowed to heal properly. Kendrick reached Miranda's side, his hand finding hers. The moment their skin touched, the true bond flared to life fully, warm, right, perfect. I've loved you since the day you arrived, Kendrick admitted softly. Watching you suffer, unable to tell you what I felt because I thought you were meant for Adrian. It was torture. No more torture, Miranda whispered, leaning into him. Not for either of us. The pack erupted in cheers. This time genuine, this time for her. Not for a ghost, not for a memory, but for the Luna who had proven herself through courage and sacrifice. Lord Raven was imprisoned along with his co-conspirators. Celine's sister was rescued from Bloodfang territory, and Celine herself chose to stay at Crescent Peak, becoming the pack's head healer and Miranda's closest friend. Adrian began the work of truly grieving Amy, finally placing her portrait in the memorial hall with the other fallen heroes and starting to live in the present instead of the past. And Miranda finally understood that sometimes the most painful journeys lead us exactly where we need to be. As she and Kendrick completed their true bonding ceremony under the next full moon, with the entire pack celebrating joyfully, she realized that being rejected by the wrong mate had freed her to find the right one. Sometimes destiny needs to be broken before it can be fulfilled. Sometimes we need to lose everything to gain what truly matters. And sometimes the greatest love stories are the ones written not in the stars, but in the courage to keep standing when everything falls apart. So, what did you think of Miranda's journey? Did she make the right choice? Would you have forgiven Adrian, or was Kendrick always the better mate? Drop your thoughts in the comments below and let me know which country you're watching from. If you loved this story of betrayal, dark magic, and finding true love in unexpected places, make sure you hit that subscribe button because we bring you epic werewolf romance stories every single week. Smash that like button if you want to see more stories about rejected mates, fated bonds, and second chances at love.